So for this cross-shopping between the 15-inch MacBook Air and the new base M3 MacBook Pro, today I want to compare them and give you advice on which one to buy if you're unsure. So beginning with the design, you really can't go wrong with both. In fact, on first glance you might think they look the same, and yes, they do share a very similar design language with the larger function row and the notch. By the way, that notch really doesn't bother me, but anyways, really there are only three things that set these apart, and that's the thickness, the color choices, and also ports. So the Pro has a fan inside and beefier thermals in general, and so as a result, it's a lot thicker compared to the MacBook Air. Now, does this make a massive difference? Honestly, no guys. I think you can look past the extra bulk, and the same goes for the weight. The Air is lighter than the Pro as one might expect, but I can't tell a massive difference in the hand. The 14-inch is still a very compact and portable machine. And by the way, would like to remind you guys, like this video and subscribe for more content like this, it would be appreciated. And also with the port situation, it definitely is nice to have the additional card reader and HDMI ports, but I'll be honest, as someone who's had a MacBook Air for nearly 3 years, I can make do with 2 Thunderbolt ports, especially since the Air and Pro feature MagSafe you can charge, and have those 2 ports free for peripherals. I do wish they were on either side of the machine, but do remember even on the 14-inch, there is no longer a Thunderbolt port on the right side, so I wouldn't say it's a massive win for the 14-inch in this department. Finally, if you want some fun in your life, the MacBook Air definitely offers the less boring shades. While the higher-end Pros do offer the fancy new space black option, this isn't available on the base 14-inch because you're not pro enough apparently, but I'll be honest, I don't care about colors. Yes, I'm a boring man, but I always go to silver when it comes to Macs. Moving to the display, there is a stark difference between these models. The 14-inch has one of, if not the best display on the market right now. It blows my mind that Apple even gave this the same display as its higher-end counterparts. But yes, I appreciate the mini LED, I appreciate the high brightness, I don't really care for 120Hz, but it's nice to have, and I think this will be a big reason a lot of consumers go for this machine over the MacBook Air. Especially if you watch a lot of movies and TV shows on your MacBook, this display is perfect, and it does make a difference. However, that doesn't mean the MacBook Air's display is unusable. Yes, it lacks mini LED and also 120Hz, which I know is gonna get the techies annoyed, but I actually don't mind the lack of these features. Apple's LCDs are still very solid, it offers P3 support and True Tone like the Pro, and of course, 500 nits of brightness is still perfectly fine, and well, this essentially is the same display technology Apple's been using for years on a whole range of MacBooks. It's tried and tested at this point, and as someone who's had an M1 MacBook Air for nearly 3 years, I'm very sure most are going to be happy with the display on this. I guess the best thing to do is try out these Macs in person, see them side by side, and if you can appreciate the better display on the 14-inch, then you can justify the additional cost for it. Moving on to performance, we have M2 in the MacBook Air and the brand new M3 in the MacBook Pro. Now M3 of course is based on the 3nm process, though they actually have the same layout, so it's 8 CPU cores and 10 GPU cores, and to no one's surprise, on paper, M3 is faster. Here are some benchmarks for the nerds who care about that, but to be honest, I don't really focus on benchmarks, those are just a bunch of numbers, and at the end of the day, both Macs in terms of real life usage are very similar. Obviously, I can't speak for everyone, I'm only basing this on my usage, which is 4K video editing every single day alongside the usual mix of emailing, writing up documents, and also scripts, and also watching YouTube and movies. And so for my kind of usage, I haven't noticed a huge difference. I don't even hear the fan very often in the 14-inch, mainly because Apple Silicon is so efficient, and so don't be pissed off by the fact the M2 Air is fanless because these machines are still very, very powerful. I've been using the M1 Air that's also fanless for the last 3 years, and I've had no issues. So do not buy the MacBook Pro thinking performance is going to be substantially better, because I don't think that's going to be the case. By the way, I don't play games on my Mac ever, so I haven't been able to test hardware ray tracing on M3, but if you care about that, and you're excited about the possibility of gaming on macOS, then you might be able to justify the premium for the Pro instead. Also, yes, I know the M3 being new is going to get longer support, but considering the M2 is still plenty powerful, you do not need to worry about support anytime soon. Both these machines are going to be updated for years. But now we come to the big issue with the 14-inch, which is 8 gigs of RAM. Now, I won't lie to you guys, I did not pick up on this Mac slowing down because it didn't have enough RAM, since unified memory on Apple Silicon is generally great. However, I don't think that's always going to be the case, You see, as it becomes older and it becomes more taxing for this machine to run newer versions of applications, I am very sure 8 gigs is going to be a bit of an issue. So personally guys, while you can get away with this, I think there should have at least been 12 gigs of RAM in here to future-proof it. And I know the MacBook Air also comes with 8 gigs as standards, but it's also a lot cheaper, and so for the price you can find it for nowadays, I think 8 gigs is fine on the Air, but of course, $1599 is not as affordable, especially when it's called the MacBook Pro, and so yes, it should come with more RAM. Moving to the webcam, these share the same sensor, and I feel like a lot of people gas up the webcam on these new Macs, but I actually can't tell a huge difference between the 1080p FaceTime camera on these models and the 720p FaceTime camera on the M1 MacBook Air, because at the end of the day guys, it's a small sensor tucked behind the screen, and so I would suggest using an iPhone via continuity camera instead. The quality your iPhone produces will be miles ahead. The speakers, however, are vastly different between these Macs. The MacBook Pro having front-firing speakers makes a big difference, and I honestly was blown away by how good the audio was from such a compact machine. Now again, I do want to emphasize that most will still likely be happy with the MacBook Pro speakers, but the Pro is substantially better, and to be honest, I personally value this more than the mini LED display. And here's a webcam and mic test for you guys on this MacBook. Let me know how this sounds. And here's a webcam test for you guys. I should sound pretty good. The visuals should be decent enough. So yeah, let me know how this is. Both these Macs share excellent keyboards, the trackpads are also perfection, it's nice and large and I love it, and Touch ID has been reliable on both machines. However, I'm hoping Apple gives us Face ID one day, because just opening the lid on the machine instantly recognizing you would be so clutch, and with the notch up at the top, I'm sure Apple could give us some new sensors to give us this technology. Connectivity wise, both have Bluetooth 5.3, however only the Pro supports the new Wi-Fi 6E standards. Now unless you have a Wi-Fi 6E router, this doesn't matter much. Both these machines have reliable Wi-Fi speeds, and generally I've had no issues. Now let's move on to the final big difference between these machines, which is the battery life. So Apple on their site claims the Pro gets you 22 hours of endurance compared to 18 hours on the Air, though do note, this is Apple TV playback numbers, and in my test when editing videos for 2 hours, the MacBook Pro lost 9% of charge compared to 13% on the MacBook Air. So yes, both machines have great battery life at the end of the day, and will definitely blow away every Windows machine on the market. You do, by the way, get a higher wattage power adapter as standard with the 14-inch Pro, so that's something to make note of. So those are all the specs compared, but of course, it comes down to pricing at the end of the day, because whilst the Pro has some key advantages, the Air has become cheaper since it's not as new, and so when it's hundreds and hundreds of dollars cheaper, I can see why you would go with the MacBook Air instead. Also, 8 gigs of RAM is much more reasonable on a much cheaper machine. I still find it hard to recommend the base 14-inch when it comes with 8 gigs of RAM at $1599, even though yes, it does come with more storage as standard, and eventually when the 14-inch does go on sale, it could be $1299 or $1399, but I still think for those who want the core Apple Silicon experience, you could easily save yourself some money and get a very similar experience with the MacBook Air for less. Also, if you can wait, the Air should be getting the M3 upgrade early next year, so that might be worth getting instead. And also remember, once the M3 Air launches, this M2 Air is going to be even cheaper. But ultimately, if you're deciding between the Air and the Pro, the big decision you have to make is whether you really want the mini LED panel or not, since that's the biggest difference in my opinion. So definitely go see these in person and decide for yourselves. But on the whole, you can't go wrong with both. These are very solid Macs, and you'll be happy with either, to be honest. Anyways, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this, and thank you for watching.